Hello, and welcome to Neuro Review. My name is scientist and podcast enthusiast Sean McCracken, visual science trainee at Washington University in St. Louis. Today, we will be reviewing, and neuro-reviewing at that, the most recent Lex Fridman episode 426 with fellow colleague of Lex at MIT, Dr. Edward Gibson, in the psycholinguistics, not department, but he's a psycholinguistic person, and this podcast was friendly and fun and very respectful in this way that you might want a colleague type relationship to be with academic partners, I would say. And they discuss a little bit of the ins and outs, especially of MIT, especially when they talk about Noam Chomsky, fellow professor that Edward Gibson kind of looked up to and has also made some interesting declarations that kind of go against kind of some of his theories, and then almost puts him down in a sense when discussing the issues in Noam's lack of experimentation. And so this is kind of an interesting, it's a respectful way that a scientist might basically talk shit on another scientist. So you kind of see that done eloquently here. I guess it's pretty cool to see Lex so excited about something like this, the understanding of language and the history of language. In the first half, you really kind of get that from Lex. Then it kind of continues. It was almost like uncharacteristics of Lex to be that enthusiastic about something and just say, you're blowing my mind, you're blowing my mind, you're blowing my mind. I mean, some of the things he's heard should be blowing his mind more than I think this just understanding of human language, although Lex is a bit of a romanticist at times. And the first half, it goes pretty well, and then they kind of make a nice lead into kind of the understanding of language and how slight differences in cultures, and then Lex brings up the point of the Russia-Ukraine war, something that has been pressing on Lex's podcast recently and made a lot of his recent podcasts very impactful and profound and meaningful in the world, and he just glosses over that. So I thought that was a big swing and miss in this episode, actually. Then they start to get into like this legal speak and how different type of text, type of writing, legal document and writing is, and how he's done a bunch of different studies on this and looked into that most statistically. So that's kind of interesting. But it's interesting, and then it kind of goes too long. And then at some point towards that, or in the later half, Ed mentions, as this expert in language, yada, yada, yada. And then he laughs off. And then later on, they start to talk about organisms, talking to animals and how that might be an interesting thing. And then Edward kind of laughs off this, why would I want to talk to different animals and organisms, and that's not even going to be possible. And Lex kind of, you'd see like the curiosity in his eyes kind of die in that moment. And it just, those two comments, the kind of lack of humility from Ed, I think was off-putting, and it was kind of made him sound a little bit arrogant in the kind of back half or back hour of this episode. So kind of with everything said there, great overall podcast, good first half, second half not so much, a bit arrogant, a bit egotistical. So that leaves me with the rating for Lex Fridman Podcast, episode 426 with Edward Gibson as a 7.5. 7.5 rating for Lex Fridman Podcast 426 with Edward Gibson. 7.5 out of 10. That's it. Stamp it. Let me know what you think. If you agree, disagree, like, comment below. Maybe if you disagree, don't like. But let's start a conversation. Let's start a rating system for these podcasts. If you like to watch podcasts, if you would like to be involved in the rating, like, comment, subscribe. Let's make it happen. Let's make a Rotten Tomatoes for podcasts. I'll see you next time on Neuro Review.